So let's go over quickly Blender's preferences, and on the way we can change some settings and make them more comfortable for us. So let's get started. This is the interface preferences, interface settings. There are some general things here. What I usually change is this status bar, and you can show scene statistics. You can come here, bottom right corner, and you can see statistics, right? So I usually show it. You can show even more things, system memory and other things, and even video memory, right? Or you can also do some other things here. For example, you can change the language, right? Or you can even, if you can't see well, you can even scale everything from here, as you can see. One is default. So, and lots of other things. You can play around with them and see if you can find something useful for you. Now, themes. Themes are great. In Blender we have themes. I usually prefer deep gray. It's better to the eye, but let's keep with Blender Dark for this course. Viewport. Viewport is this 3D viewport, and you can change some things here. For example, you can, as you can see, there is some information here, object info. You can remove it, or view name, what kind of view you are in. You can remove that too, or some other things here. You can change, for example, gizmo size, and you can just, for example, let's put this gizmo size. You can see default is 75. It's okay. And there are other things. Play around, see if you can find something useful. Lights. Lights are how you light your scene. There are matte caps. You can install new matte caps. You can find it online. These are matte caps. As you can see, we will choose different matte cap, and your object looks different, right? And you can install new matte caps. You can install new matte caps. Let's come back to studio lighting, or even you can change the studio lights too. For example, let's turn on editing, and as you can see, I am turning around the sun maybe, or the light source, and changing the lighting in my scene. You can turn off this editing, and you can save it. Now, next, editing. This is related to edit mode and editing our objects. So, for example, new objects, link materials to object data or object itself. It starts to make sense as you get to know Blender more. Now it doesn't make sense. For example, duplicate data. You can duplicate materials with it. Usually in Blender, when you Shift D and duplicate the object, two objects use the same material, and if you change one of these materials, the second other changes. The second changes too, but if you turn this on, they will have separate materials. Now, animation. These are settings for animation. You can change some things here. For example, if you come here to timeline, you cannot go to negative numbers, right? If you can drag it, but if you allow negative frames, you can go to negative numbers. But it doesn't usually make sense to go to negative frames. I don't know why they are here, but they're here. As you start to learn more about animation, you can find some useful things here. Add-ons. Add-ons are great. They are a big part of, I think, any software. Some add-ons can be even deciding factor of some software. But for Blender, there are a lot of good animations, not animation, add-ons already built in. For example, what do we have here? I usually turn on Rigify when I am working with animations, Rigify add-on, because it gives you ready-made. Shift A. So armature animal, for example, or basic human, or animal, for example, horse rig. You can see this is by Regify add-on. So let's come back and edit preferences. So, and there are lots and lots of add-ons here already built in Blender. You can turn them on, and while you learn this course, we will turn on many of them and use them. Input. This is input, your keyboard, your virtual keyboard maybe, and other things. Mouse, how they affect your navigation and things like that. I don't usually change any of things here. Navigation. This is something important. We usually we sometimes change it. For example, this is orbit method. You can orbit like this, but if you change it to trackball, it works like ZBrush. Yeah, it kind of change it, and you will see what I mean. Change it and work with it. This is trackball. This is turntable. Yeah, and we have some other things here. For example, orbit around selection. If you turn this on, currently if I select one thing, if you don't turn this on, if you turn around, you always orbit around the center of the scene, or what was the center of the scene. But if you turn this on, you turn around this object that you have selected. You always turn around this thing, or this, or this. You just change, and you will see the effect. And more things like this. For example, fly, navigation, walk, we will see them to key map. This is keyboard. This deals with keyboard shortcuts. You can change selection method, for example, left mouse or right mouse. In the past, Blender used right mouse selection. If you wanted to select something, you would click right mouse. So let's go, and you can change overall settings here. For example, Blender 2.7x, 2.79 or something. System, you can change some things here. And we always change it. We always come here before we start working with Blender. For example, cycles render devices. If you have a good graphics card, you should choose one of them. For example, CUDA or OptiX. If you have NVIDIA, you can choose this, or OptiX. Or if you have AMD graphics card, you can choose HIP. Yeah. It was different before, but from Blender 3.2, I think it's changed. I can choose OptiX, and you can turn on your processor to help your graphics card. Let's choose one of them. Now, for example, I usually change this undo steps. It means how many times you can press Ctrl Z to go back. I usually make it to 128 times. If you have a large memory, large RAM, you can make it even bigger. Save and load. For example, you can change some things here. For example, save versions. How many versions, temporary versions, Blender saves, or autosave. In how many minutes Blender automatically saves your file, and things like that. File paths. It's default file paths for Blender to look for something when you need it. For example, you can assign new image editor here. For example, you can choose Photoshop, and whenever you need to edit your image, Blender automatically opens Photoshop, and you can edit like this. For example, if you have image editor, let's import some images like this, for example. And if you want to edit this image, edit externally, if you click on this, and now Blender is complaining we haven't set up default image editor, so you can do that too. So this is overall information about the Blender preferences. We often change these things, change a thing or two oftentimes, so this can be useful.